Hey, welcome back, everybody. Here is another episode of Breaking Barriers Now. And today I have my really good friend, someone I've known for some years now. I'm going to call him DA now because we had this whole conversation about the name right before I started recording this. But he's just been a huge, a positive influence to my life. We never really know where our lives are going to go when we meet people, and sometimes we think it's just going to be a temporary thing, and then here we are however many years later. I think I met you, what, 2016 maybe, and here we are 2022. So you know we can definitely support and encourage and empower each other just by staying in contact. So he's doing some really great things, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to have him on here today, because I know that his story is going to have an amazing impact on a lot of people out there. So thank you for being here. I
Thank you for
appreciate
having me.
you. Yeah, for sure. And we kind of did this off the cuff, so um, you know, God makes a way though, right?
Amen.
He's like, I was like, you available at this time? You're like, yep. All right, cool. Let's make it happen. All right, man. So I know a little bit about your backstory just from what you shared through your music. That's something else that I definitely want you to kind of touch on. But I want everybody out there to just kind of hear a little bit about, you and what brought you through to where you are today.
Amen. So thank you for having me again. I thank God for
Of
this
course, of
opportunity
course.
to be able to impact anybody's lives. Um, Shoot, I think we actually met in 20. I met you before you met me. Actually, I'm gonna put that disclaimer out.
Ah, okay.
You was pushing them heavy weights with them in Japan, and I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna stay away from that right now.
I know people used to say I looked intimidating. I was like, "What? I'm nice. just don't,
Yeah,
just don't cross me." That was my thing. Like, I'm nice. Just don't cross
it was the
me.
leg press that took me out because I was like, dang, my leg looked big, but they wasn't strong enough to push what you was pushing. So I said, I'm good on that.
That's so funny.
But I'm gonna just start here. Like I said, my name is Darwin Anthony Smalls. That's my full name. I go by DA Smalls as an artist name. People call me DJ sometimes, or Smalls. Um, I was born in Charleston, South Carolina. I was raised in Cross, South Carolina, in a little country, probably about 600, 700 people. That's about it. Um, I graduated in 2009. Um, I actually was held back 2 years. So,
What?
and a lot of people didn't know that. 1 year, got in trouble. Not necessarily in trouble. I was a little small, 5'4" guy that used to get picked on and bullied a lot. And my teacher
Mm.
um, disapproved of the tattletelling that we so called that I did on her. And she said she was quitting anyway, so she held me back my first year, my sixth grade year. I
Wow.
completed that. Um, I think that was my first rocky road of like shame and disappointment, but I
Hmm.
still kept the mentality of getting through this and graduating. So, um, and then my eighth grade year, moving into my ninth grade year, I was held back. That one, I just failed. I just was going through so much at home, abuse, working, not being able to put our work first. My
Hmm.
mind wasn't nowhere near in school. My mind in school was to try to create friends because I felt like I didn't have any.
Yeah.
So I am adopted. So my father, my biological father, was doing 12 years in prison. My
Mm.
biological mother was a drug addict, um, and we almost got sold for crack cocaine until
Jesus.
my stepfather, who's technically my grandfather, came in the picture. And yeah, he came
I
in.
feel like that's a whole nother story in itself, but
It
I mean
is.
that
It
that
is.
just shows that there's somebody that stepped up though, so that's good.
Oh, it's it get deep. Um, it get deep. Um, just to sum that part up, later on down the road, technically we come to find out that he's probably not even our grandfather. So that's a whole
Mm.
different. That's a whole different
Look,
ball.
one of these days you're gonna have to let me write your book, man. that I feel like that could be a whole chapter in itself.
It is.
Maybe
No,
3.
I used to tell people I don't even think Dr. Phil could figure this out.
Oh.
But
How do
so
you think that let me just I don't want to cut you off, but I mean just from what you said just in that, few minutes. Like that's a lot of hits for a kid. How do you think and I know how what I went through with like abandonment issues and stuff like that. So is that something that you kind of struggled with too, like the abandonment and your self-worth and I mean cuz
um,
you were young.
I don't the abandonment. I didn't feel that till I was about 13. My
Mm.
first, because I didn't even know that um, the lady who was taking care of us. I thought that was my real mother.
Mm.
So I didn't even know that we were adopted. Till after a while. Um, we was jumping from. We stayed in Cross, but my stepfather, he would bounce around. He wasn't with nobody, no one woman. So
Mm.
we encountered multiple women. So we didn't know how to stay put. You know, we
Wow.
we we saw more mother figures, so there was no way to know who was who except for the person that was raising us at the time. So, um, and we was damaged, so we was just like we ought to just stay quiet. That kept us
Mm.
quiet because the abuse that happened with it, made us like, dang, we don't want to get abused no more. So we rather be on his side, and we just kept quiet. We stuck with it, and that stuck with us. Um,
Mm.
so,
How many siblings do you have?
oh man.
Oh goodness. Is that a big question too?
All
I'm
right.
gonna just open up all kinds of can of worms today.
If he is my grandfather, if he is my grandfather, okay, bump that. We ain't gonna go if he is my grandfather. I
okay,
will
let's
say
let's
that
make it simple because you were
he got
saying
30.
us, right? So like,
He got
okay,
32 kids.
oh, okay, we're not even gonna go there. Um, but like, okay, let's see if I can make this simple. With your mom and your real dad, like, was there other siblings there that you had to move with? Because you were saying us.
Oh, well, in the house, you saying like in the house?
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
it was 8 of us in the house. It was 6,
Ah,
and
okay.
and then when they moved together, they had 2 more.
Mm. All right, so
So
we're gonna bypass the 33.
yeah.
All right, so let's go. Let's move on. But again, I kind of wanted to harp on that because like that the psychology of what kids go through, and I was one of those kids that went through a lot too, and I didn't really examine any of it until I'm in my 40s now, and so now I notice it more, and you're probably more aware of it too, where it's like you can tell when a kid is shutting down or they're struggling with the self-worth and stuff like that. So that's why I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit more about that and just open it up a little bit more because there's some kid out there somewhere that might need to hear that that they're not alone.
Well, let me
So thank
throw
you for
this
sharing
stone.
that.
Let me throw this stone in there real quick. As I got older, I learned that we have put the term abandonment on there, but
Hmm.
from a spiritual perspective, we've never been abandoned truly. We've honestly been rescued from whatever situation that it was. And I had to learn that because when I actually encountered my
Yeah.
biological father, my biological mother, I was like, why didn't they want me? But it was like, God was like, hey, if I leave you here, you're going to perish. You're not going to know me. You're not going to be able to
Mm.
get the time with me that you need, the nourishment, the spiritual guidance. You're not going to get because my brothers, all of them stayed with them and they doing life in jail. They've been in and out of
Yeah.
prison, all types of stuff. Some of them doing drugs
Wow.
after meeting my mom. Like there's a lot of rescuing that God does through the term abandonment.
Right.
And I know it hurts, but it's just like, man, once you get older and develop that relationship, you'll know like, hey, he was actually protecting you from
Yeah.
walking a walk that could have damaged anybody else that you've encountered.
Yeah. That's good. That's
So,
good. I like that.
but after the whole moving out, my first abandonment thing that I felt was my stepmother who raised us for 13 years. She my father afforded her the opportunity to take care of us, but she had to move out of the house. He bought her a double wide trailer in the same yard because we had like 5-6 acres of land. So he bought her a double wide trailer in the yard. He paid for it. He said she don't have to pay for anything. And And when he offered her the opportunity, I'm sitting here thinking like, yes, we still get to be with her because this man right here isn't what we want to be with at the time. Um, but he is what we needed. So she packed up in a matter of 2 hours and she left and left us
Wow.
right there and left us right there with him. And it was very discouraging because that was our first like love, like what you knew, and that was the
Mm.
first sign of something being stripped away from us. That's been there all our lives, where we smiled, we cried, all of that stuff together, and
Yeah.
that just left in a matter of 2 hours. So that was
Mm.
my more so my first breakdown. I could have took the abuse. I could have took even um the being beaten up at school and stuff and the bullying. But then when that came right there, it dropped everything. It made everything sink.
Mm.
And so we moved on from there. And here we go. My stepmother today, she moved in. She didn't push her out. It was my father's. They wasn't together or anything like that. She was just taking care of us. That was his thing. Hey, take care of us, and you can stay in the house as long as you do that. So here they move into the house. So now it was just two of us. Then he found a daughter, and the daughter's mom had passed away, so he took her. So now it's three of us. So then
Mm.
my stepmom moved in, and she had three. She had a boy and two girls, and he had a boy and
Oh
one
my
girl, two
goodness.
boys. And so we all moved in together, old Brady bunch. So now we trying to
That's
get to
I was
know
just thinking that.
So now we all trying to get to know each other. We don't know much
Oh
about each other,
man.
but we played around with each other for a long time.
Yeah.
We used to go over to the house and have fun. So that's what made it even, better because we used to play around, play video games and stuff like that. He used to take us over there. So that made it better. But here we go with the abuse again. Um, and just like, I mean, when I say abuse, I put this out there because it's testimony, nothing against him, because I understand what he went through and that's what he thought
Right.
love was. But we used to get thrown in the bathroom, with a lock on the end, like butt naked. And we used
Mm.
to have to sit in there. And sometimes we used to get fed through the bathroom, and beat extension cords, PVC pipes, dryer
Mm.
cords, you know, um, punch, kick, it was whatever it took. Sometimes I remember I used to get in trouble because we never used to get the things that we wanted. So I started stealing at a young age. And I started, doing it to give back to my brothers, food, whatever it took. I used to walk in Publix and fill up two grocery carts because they wasn't cooking. We was eating noodles and hot dogs, which I didn't know having food, period, was a blessing. We wanted everything that
Right.
everybody else wanted.
Right.
But I would fill up two grocery carts and I would walk straight out the door and put it in the truck because we used to work. So he used to trust my brother to drive. And so I put it in there and we go home and we smack down. But here he is going through all of this abuse and beating and working so much. They used to call us Smith and slaves at the school because we never got a chance to endure or have the fun times that everybody else had. All we got a
Yeah.
chance to do was work, school work, and then more work. Sometimes we'd be late just finding tools. So
Mm.
so here we go, pushing on out. I remember I got tired of the abuse. My brother ran away, and some stuff happened. Um, and then he found him, and he came back. And I remember I was like, man, I gotta get us out of this. I love my older brother left, so that was that. And I remember I had a Jimmy Neutron moment because I was just like brain blast. And
Nice. That's funny. Jimmy Neutron moment. Yeah.
I wanted to leave, but my brother, my biological brother, my only biological brother that was in there, wasn't old enough to leave. So I
Mm.
stayed and I endured what was going on until he was old enough. And I remember we was working. We just had graduated. We was working. He had bought us these two trucks that was crap. And he was just like, yeah, I paid, $100 a piece for them, something like that, whatever. He was like, I'm gonna teach you how to drive them, fix them up, all this other crazy stuff. And he was like, yeah, I got y'all bank accounts. So, I'm gonna put the money in there for y'all. And so we was working at this house, and I remember he was just like, we had took the cards, the debit cards, we took them out of his wallet, and we was like, it's our money, so we're gonna go ahead and buy what we want to buy. And I remember he went into the bank account, and he was just like, y'all took money out of y'all account, and he was like, you know what, y'all gonna work for me for free and all of this stuff. And I'm like, I'm
Oh my
graduating
goodness.
now. I'm 18 years old. I've graduated. So we working at this house, and I have my cell phone. And I don't know how, I thank God for that, because where I'm from, you don't get no service out in Cross. So where we was at, I just don't know how the service came through, but it did. And we was
Yeah.
put insulation under a house. And I remember, so when he said, "We are working for free," I said, "I'm done with this." So I called my brother. I asked him to pick us up at a certain time at night, because he had to go bowling. I'm telling you, that was my brain blast moment. And and then I don't know how I found it, but I found my biological father's number like in the phone book.
Mm.
And once I did that, I called him and let him know, like, "Look, we're leaving this home. Can we come there?" And he was like, "Yeah." So now we got a place to stay. We got an exit strategy. So now we just got to wait to get to the house, because we Harriet Tubman. We jumped out the window. And I know my stepmom knew something was wrong, because I went in there and I kissed her on her forehead, and I saw tears coming out her eyes. She didn't
Mm.
know everything that happened. She just knew something was going on. And all
Yeah.
I remember was we jumped out the window and we left. And from then on out, meet my biological father, it was rough. He was from the streets. We was from the country. That's what he did. And it was a good time because we was free, but it was a bad time because of the experience that we started having. My brother went to the
Mm.
military. I was still out in the streets, and I remember something happened where I used to see my father. He used to get into fights with his lady so bad that I was just like, I can't stay here no more. And so when
Mm.
my brother left and I left, and I end up kind of getting the short end of the stick. So I was sleeping outside eating out of a garbage can
Mm.
downtown Charleston. I remember I had a job that was at Denton Shipyard, and but I never had money before like that, so I was blow the money. I didn't think about
That.
home or anything like that. So,
Yep.
and then I had homeboys that didn't know what was going on, but they didn't have money. So if one eat, we all ate. So I was like, hey, I
Right.
break bread, put gas in the tank, whatever the case may be. We did a bunch of foolish stuff, a bunch of crazy stuff, from women to stealing to fighting to whatever it took. Um, and all I remember, that lifestyle was hectic. I just kept a smile on my face. I never told anybody that I was sleeping outside, out of garbage can. And when I finally
Yeah.
did tell somebody, it was a lot of pride. I bounced from house to house. I used to stay with women who just wanted like sexual favors from me. So I was,
Mm.
it's not something that I wanted to do, but I did it because it was a way to keep a roof over my head, you
Right.
know. Um, and so right before the military, I remember getting ready to um, well, backtrack real fast. I remember sleeping outside of a job, and this is why we got to be careful of what we tell our kids. I remember I used to tell my dad I wanted to wait till I was married to have intercourse. That was before I even had a relationship with God. That was just my thing. And I remember he used to call me gay 24/7. And
Mm.
my first sexual encounter, I did it because I wanted to make him proud, and I didn't even do it for myself. And so during that time,
Wow.
I remember the seeds that he planted was gay. So I remember one time I was molested, not penetrated or anything like that, but something orally happened to me, and I didn't know
Mm.
how to respond. I didn't know how to act. I didn't even know how to fight at the time. I wasn't a person who fought, so I was in shock. So when it happened, the person I was sleeping next to a garbage can when it happened. Um, and I remember the feeling that I felt from it was horrible. I felt shame. I never wanted to tell anybody anything else. And at that moment, a confusion of sexuality set in. I didn't think to go out there and do anything with anybody, but in my mind, I was like, I don't know what I am at this moment, and it hurt because I'm like, look, all I ever wanted to do was wait for this right here, and now that I encountered this and this lifestyle that I'm living, it was pretty damaging to me. So now I really didn't know what love was and how to receive it um, from anybody.
Yeah.
So here I am down the road. Um, I get kicked out of I found my stepmother who left us. I left her house because we just arguing all the time because I had so much resentment for her leaving and anger. And so I was like, I'm going to the Marines. And I remember I was sleeping in a laundromat, and I remember my recruiter. He was supposed to show up like an hour later. I don't know what made him show up an hour earlier. He was just sitting in there. I guess he needed them.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's recruiter. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? They made sure they were there. Look, I got 3 waivers to go in. They needed people.
So he saw me leaving out the laundromat with a bag. He used to
Mm,
ask me like, "How do you like?" I was always pushing when I came to the trainings. He was like, "How do you still push? Even when it looked like you're not working, looked like you're not gonna make it." I wasn't a runner, so I couldn't run, but I was an athlete, and that's just what
mm,
it was. And I remember he saw me coming out there with a bag and hiding it behind a bush, and he was like, "Where do you live?" And I was getting ready to lie, and he was just like, "Come here." I wasn't even supposed to be into the military for like probably a year later, probably like a couple of
mm,
months. Um, he expedited my process. I lost the weight that I needed to lose. I was running with garbage bags over me and stuff like that in the blazing heat. Lost the weight that I needed to lose. They still signed a waiver because I remember, during recruiting, they give you that time to eat at the hotel in the morning. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I went ham because I ain't have food like that. So I went.
Yeah.
So I was about a few pounds over, and they still gave me a waiver. This is how I know it was God, because I had flat feet.
Mm,
They wasn't even gonna let me in because of my flat feet. I don't know what it was that made that man just say, "Hey, we're gonna let you go," but we did. And then my waiver for my weight. So then I just started losing weight after that. I was like, "Bump this, I gotta go." This is when they gonna let me go. My recruiter ended up letting me stay at his house for like 2 weeks.
mm.
During that
Wow.
time, I was in there. Like, recruiter, he's like, "I've never done this before." He's like, "I don't know what it is about you, but we're gonna get you in there." Of course, it might have been, him trying to get his stuff, but but
Eh,
I really
that's going overboard though. I don't think that was just it. He probably
that's
really did see something in
that's
you.
what I thought at the time. But like I
Yeah.
said, it was until I got older and matured and understood what he was doing, how God was working in my life and didn't know it.
Yeah.
So I graduated top one, top two, and top three boot camp. Um, MCT and MOS school. I graduated, at the top of my classes because I remember where I came from. That's just who I was.
Yeah.
Um, Now, once I get into the military, I'm getting ready to do my stuff, and boom, um, I get in trouble for having a second job. I get married. I got me a son. Um, I get in trouble for having a second job, and I lose just about everything. Me and her get into an argument. They give me an indefinite NPO. So now I'm like, hell, I can't even see my kid how I want to. I started going through depression. I took pills to try to hurt myself. Um, and
So that was around, I think I met you before that, right?
yeah, you met me
Before,
before.
yeah. Okay. Because I remember we started working together and then some stuff started happening and I didn't really hear from you. And so then, then I heard about that later. But okay, for anybody out there that's listening, so you went into the Marines. I just want to make sure I clarify. So you went into the Marines. So in the Marines, because I was in the Air Force, so it's a lot different, different things. I could have had a second job. I did have a second job. So we were allowed to have a second job. So in the Marines, what you're saying is like it was so much
In
control.
Japan, we
Ah, okay.
only in
I got you.
Japan, only in Japan,
Okay. Okay.
we couldn't
I was
have. We
wondering because
wasn't
I was
allowed
just
to
like,
have
what do you mean you can't have a second job?
off
Yeah, they
base.
were
We
a
could
lot. They were really strict with you guys out there.
off
Yeah,
base
because
we
I
couldn't have.
remember.
So on
Okay.
base we could have had a second job, but off base we couldn't have.
Ah, okay.
But
Okay.
on
All right.
base they was only getting like 7.25 an hour, so I'm like, I'm not working no minimum wage.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's
So
crazy. So they found out, and then what happened? Your life just started kind of
going
tumbling out
downhill.
of control, right?
Yeah, something happened. I can't really specify here, but something happened. Some of my old ways kind of kicked in, and I did
Yeah.
something that wasn't good. Like I said, I still had a mentality of robbing and stealing,
Yeah.
to make ends meet for my family.
Yeah.
Um, and
That
so
addiction, right? I literally just had this conversation this past week because we all have like these addictions that are in us. And like for me, and you people don't see the work we have to do behind the scenes, right? It's like in order to combat these addictions, there's a lot of work that goes into that because habitually we can go right back. But that's that awareness factor. right? But
Mm-hmm.
you weren't aware of it back then. There were plenty of times where I've backtracked, and I mean, I can still go there. I know that now, but I wasn't aware of it before.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
what kind of made you more aware of what you were doing? Like, what was that
Um,
kind of wake up call for you?
Really, when I gave my life to God, that's when He was there, and that was when I got out of the military and I moved to Nebraska. I was trying to get away from everybody. So once
Yeah.
I committed my life to God, it was like there's some things that God would do instantaneously, and there's some things
Mm-hmm.
that it just takes time to get rid of, and that was one of them. That robbing, that stealing, that cussing mentality, even drinking, it was just like
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. I didn't even know that I wasn't doing it until it was years down the road. I was like, dang, I ain't touched none of
I
this. I
haven't
ain't did
touched.
none,
Yeah.
so
Nice. But what? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that journey though, because there was, and just talk about what you can, but from the point of, okay, I'm out of the military, to, you know, okay, I'm gonna give my life to God. Like, what did that look like for you?
um my life changed. I got engaged. I remember I got engaged. And I moved to Nebraska. Somebody had let me stay there, which I thought nobody was there, but I had a bunch of family. I
Mm,
was trying to do a lot of good with wrong, with mixed with wrong. I had a lot of lies and deceit and stuff like that, but I was trying to do good things with it. And
mm-hmm,
I remember in like a matter of like 2 hours, I had lost my home. This was all for me now, off the strength of the lies and the deceit. I had lost my
mm-hmm,
place to stay, my car, um, all my money, my job, and I had lost my fiance
mm,
in like a matter of like 2 hours. And I remember that was like another breaking point for me because I had got so comfortable with sleeping outside already prior to the military that I didn't even care. I was like, man, I know how to survive. So once that happened, I was like, dang, I got all this good stuff going on. My son is right down. I can go get my son, spend time with. I had lost all of that in a matter of like 2 hours. And I remember I was staying in my cousin's basement. He had like a whole another house down there. I was staying in my cousin's basement. I wouldn't even leave from down there. I would like stay in the dark for a few days. And and all I remember was my cousin and them left for work. It was snowing and it was so cold. And I remember my mom telling me one time that she told God that she wasn't going to stop walking until she heard from him. Now, obviously, he didn't let her walk far. She made it to the front door and she heard from him. But mine was a little bit different. And I started running. I am with my military
mm,
mindset. So I'm starting to run in this cold. And I'm like, God, just direct me like a GPS. If I felt an unction to go right, I would go right. If I felt an unction to go left, I'd go left. So I'm running and running and running. And I remember going down the side of the highway. And I remember I heard turn back around. And I was just like, I'm probably not going to do that because I'm thinking I'm not a runner. I hate running. So I'm thinking that's just me tired.
mm-hmm.
And all I remember was I went back to the house, I got to the front, and I said, Lord, if this is you, in this freezing cold weather, I need you to give me a warm, I asked for a specific thing. I need you to give me like a hot, warm sensation down the back of my
Mm-hmm.
neck. That's what I asked for. Man, just like that, it came. So I
Wow.
went inside and I sat down. I didn't turn on any TV. And I sat down by the couch. And I was like, God, I need something else. And I was like, if this is truly you, I need a hug. That's what I asked for. I didn't ask for anything else. I said, I need something that's embracing and warm. Um, and I need a hug. And I remember I did like this to myself.
Hmm.
And I just let my hands rest. And all I remember was I felt a clenching. But in the clenching, instead of feeling the presence of anything evil, I felt peace. I
Mm,
felt comfortability. And I remember I just busted out crying thinking about everything that I had lost, everything I done. And to this day, I remember looking at the couch. If you got them soft couches, them Tempur-Pedic couches, when you sit down and put your hand on there, it leaves a print. Well,
yeah.
there was a couch that I didn't touch at all. And when I looked, it looked like it had a handprint sitting on there. And I didn't get scared. Normally, I would get scared or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, wow. I wonder if he was sitting right there the whole time when I was just sitting there. But
Yeah.
yeah, once I gave my life to God, it was just a lot of. I had to come back to where it all started. I told myself I would never come back to Charleston.
I. Mm,
I came
yep.
back to
Why do you think
Charleston.
I'm where I'm at?
And this is
I
how
will
I know
never
it.
go back there. God's plan. God's plan. Right? Like, no,
This
you
is how I
need to
know
go
it
back
was
there.
God, because
That's
my
you
dad
need
would
to go
never
back
buy
there.
a plane ticket. I
Yeah.
know he would never buy a plane ticket or anything like that. That's how I know it was God, because he was like, "Son, I'll buy you a plane ticket," and I'm like, "What? Man, there ain't no way." And from there,
Wow.
I remember going to church with my mom and them. And one night, I was supposed to fly back to Nebraska. I had my ticket ready, getting ready to fly back to Nebraska, and I said something is telling me not to go. And my mom was like, "I've been praying for you not to go." I said, "You can take that prayer right back, because I'm leaving." That's what I told her. And and I said, "Lord, if you don't want me to go," I live in the country, so I used to see shooting stars all the time. I haven't
Hmm.
seen any in forever. I remember I said, "God, if you would like me to stay here, um, I need you to send me a shooting star." And he didn't give it to me at the moment, but we was leaving the church service, and I remember my mom was talking, and my mom was crying, and it's like, "Mom, something just telling me not to go. I don't know." And she started smiling. And right when she started smiling, the shooting star while we driving dropped. I said, "No, I
What?
need another one. I need another one."
I need another one. That's not enough. No, that's not enough.
And another one came down.
Isn't that funny though? How we do that? Like, please believe and I still can do it to this day. It's like, no, that wasn't good enough. Like, you sure? But he's like, no, I already gave it to you. I already gave you the confirmation. But it's funny because it'll be a person, a thing, somebody will say something, something will happen, and you're just like, well, all right, there's my confirmation. Like, man, well,
Once that happened right there, I stayed. And ever since then, I've committed my life. It's been a lot of struggling, but it's like I used to do everything the wrong way to
hmm,
try to get things done right. Now I'm
yeah,
doing things the right way, and
yeah,
it's still a struggle. But even in the Bible, it speaks about that we will suffer.
yep,
Those who serve Christ will suffer, but in suffering it'll build character, and in character it'll build hope, and in hope it'll build it in Christ. And
yeah,
so I thank him for that, for teaching me all of that, because it helps with my music. It helps
yeah,
be transparent with everything that's going on. It
yeah,
helps me to tell these stories to these people that's possibly going through the things that I'm going through. And
exactly.
that way they can understand, if somebody made it through, I can make it through as well.
Yeah. And then it's ongoing, so
Yeah.
like you become relatable. I mean, that's what I'm learning. It's like, we're going through this journey. It's nonstop. And every day that we wake up, it's part of the journey. But then we're able to, speak life in other people because we're living it. We're living it, and but okay. Let's go into, because I want to make sure we talk about, what you're doing now. And definitely I want you to talk about your music and how, because I mean, I follow you on social media. I try to pay attention as much as possible, and I know you're doing some big things. So let's talk a little bit about kind of what brought you to that.
My kids at the church, I remember
Yeah.
the adults was just doing all of their. I used to do music when I was younger. I did poetry, and then once I
Yeah.
got
Okay.
out, I started doing music. Before I went to the military, I started doing like motivational music. Um,
Mm.
and then when I got back, finally, I had let everything kind of slide. I would write stuff while I was in the military, but I didn't, work on it. But
Mm-hmm.
once I got out, my kids, when I came back, the kids at the church, they couldn't enjoy how they wanted to enjoy the music, because it wasn't music that they was used to. It was like they're so up to date that
Right.
we do music that's, and I remember Chance the Rapper, he had a song called Problems. You don't want no problems. And
Yeah.
I remember I was like, I wonder if I could remix that for the kids. And so for the New Year's event that they had, I had wrote the song, and it was like, if one more demon try to stop me, it's gonna be some God fearing Christians in the lobby. And we went from there,
Nice.
and they loved it. And I just started
Yeah.
writing more, because I was like, they want something that they can, have fun with in church and praise
Yeah.
God at the same time. And from then on there, I just started writing and writing, and it got deeper and deeper. And I'm thinking the kids wouldn't understand deep, because people was like, you just too deep. But these kids actually understand deep more than you think, because they
Yeah.
they they go through all of the same stuff. They just don't say it. you know,
Right.
and you think that they're not understanding, but they're like, our kids are getting like more intelligent as time
Yes.
goes on at a younger age. And so
Yeah.
and that just became the thing, you know, and then people was just like, man, I can relate. And then I did a 24-hour album. That was a push. God was just like, hey, if I gave you 24 hours, what would you do with it? And it wasn't even the album about it. It was the conversation they had. If I gave you 24 hours, how fast would you move for me? Because we always say, oh, we're gonna put this on the back burner. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
do it. But if you only had 24 hours, how fast would you? And I remember that was the title of it. And I called my
Yeah.
homeboy and I was like, hey, we're gonna make an album in 24 hours. And that's what we did.
What do you say? All right, I'm there.
He was on board. He was on board.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
told him what I heard. I said it wasn't necessarily about the album, but it was more so about the time frame. What will we do in
Mm-hmm.
24 hours? How will we use it? And we slept in the studio. We got Bojangles that morning, and we slept in the studio. You know, and
Yeah.
I remember I was fasting. I was drinking tea. I even got sick. I know the enemy was trying to stop me. I even got sick, so I was
Yeah.
just sipping tea the whole time. That album right there, and people was like, "Man, ain't no way, you know, you did this sick and all this stuff, and in 24 hours." Matter of fact, my homeboy who was producing it, when he was mixing and mastering, he said he was at the computer sleep. He said he swear up and down it was an angel like moving his hands to like do stuff because
Wow.
he couldn't even function.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
man.
so that went from there, and then I did a later on down the road. I started pushing more. I was never into the numbers and stuff that goes on the
Right.
stream or anything like that. I always just if you heard it, you heard it. If you
Right.
didn't, you didn't. Um,
I
and
think we
then
relate
True
a lot
Flaws
like
came.
that. Yeah.
And then
Same
True
thing.
Flaws came, and that was the time that I met you. That was the time you came down to South Carolina for your
Yeah.
book. And that's when True Flaws came. I was like, God, I need somebody, a producer that's going to allow me to even go further. And it was 3 doors down that a producer was sitting right there. They didn't know. And I was like, well, shoot, I don't got all the money for all of this because I know it takes time. He was like, no, man, I want you to just come in and do your thing. And
Wow.
True Flaws came out to be so touching to a lot of people because it was transparent. It was stuff that I didn't want to say, but God was like, look, you either doing this for me or you're not. It ain't
Exactly.
got nothing to
Yeah.
do about the shame or anything like that, you know. Everything that was on there was stuff that people goes through on a daily basis, and that's why it never was shame into it. It was just like, wow, you know. I would hear people talk about even when I told them about the confusion sexuality, it was like, man, you know, there's times where I want to say it, but I never said it because it is, you know, I appreciate what you're doing and all of it. It's just
Yeah.
deep stuff that's in there, um, and that's how that went. So.
Yeah.
And then of course the motivational speaking. I travel to the kids and talk to them and let them know things that I've done that, you know, so they can kind of steer away from it, and even the things that they're going through, maybe abuse or whatever, how to get past that, you know, whom to talk to, whatever the case may be, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just a lot, you know.
Yeah. That's good, man. That's good. And yeah, I've had to learn the same thing. It's like I was ashamed of sharing stuff. You know, when you met me, nobody knew all the stuff. You know, nobody, because I didn't show it. And you know, back then I could lift a little bit heavier, which I probably messed myself up a little, probably more than I should have. But that was my outlet. But what I tell people is when I was in the greatest physically, when I was in the greatest shape, mentally, I was messed up. And so, you know, we see what we see though. So people see people, but they don't ever see the story behind the person. So that's kind of where this all came about, where it was like we all have a story and these stories are meant to be shared. And, you know, not everybody's ready to share their story, but if we can be the voice for those people and just show them like, hey, it's okay. And you're not the only one, and we're all messed up and we're all flawed, and but there's blessings on the other side if we just keep going. So, and you've definitely shown that. But I want to make sure that we, you know, give all your information, like tell people, you know, how to connect with you, um, you know, what you got going on, where they can find your music, stuff like that.
So like I said, I go by the name of DA Smalls, which Jody didn't know. No, I'm just playing. No,
I
I
know.
go
I
by
literally found out his whole name today.
I go by DA Smalls. I am a Christian lyricist. Everything I do is faith based. You can find me on Instagram at I am DA Smalls. You can find me on Facebook at DA Smalls. Any streaming platform is D.A Smalls, and you can type in True Flaws album or 24 Hours album, and we got some singles out there. But just look it up. It's on Spotify,
Yeah.
Apple Music, Amazon, whatever it is that you stream off of, you can find at YouTube. And just go on there. I don't mind. I appreciate the likes, the comments, the shares, but I very much appreciate if you listen to the message more than
Yeah.
anything. That's my biggest thing right there, because you don't know what you might hear in there that may be helping you. Um, and so I got a website that we're putting up. You can email me at trueflawsllc@gmail.com.
Okay. Look at you.
Trueflawsllc@gmail.com. That's one thing
All
that God
right.
will bless us with, the
Nice.
LLC. So
Okay. All right. Hey, one step at a
one
time.
step at a
One step at
time.
a time. And I also want to throw it out there for anybody listening. Hey, man, he's doing some great things up there. And you guys, if anybody can go and listen to his music, so into this ministry, because that's exactly what he's doing. He's got a ministry. He's got some great people in his corner, and literally everything that he's been through is for this reason. And the more that people are sewing into that and believing in that mission, the greater it's going to be. So I definitely believe in you, and I'm glad that you came on here today and just shared what you shared. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what all comes about with your journey, and we're all on it. So just got to keep going, right?
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
yeah.
Definitely.
Is there any final? I always ask everybody this. Was there any final words you want to say to anybody out there that might be listening?
Um, just please understand that even myself and Jody, even though we may have found and others have, you know, developed and found their way with Christ, that even in then we still get weak at times. It's times
Mm-hmm.
where we can't even get down on our knees and lift our hands up because we're fighting, and our mind resorts back to worldly sometimes. But
Yeah.
that's part of being human. God knows that. So I just want y'all to understand that we're not invincible.
Nope.
Never have we
Not
been.
at all.
And
Yeah.
you don't have to be perfect to come to God. Just come as you are, for real. It has nothing
Yeah.
to do with your clothes or anything. It has everything to do with your soul. Just come and focus on
Yeah.
you and God. That's it. The relationship with you and Him, not nobody else.
That's good, man. That's good right there. Well, again, I really appreciate you coming on here today and just taking time out and being vulnerable and sharing the story. And I really hope that people will share this out. Follow you guys, follow this channel, subscribe, share these stories out, because there are people out there that are suffering and they need to know that they're not alone. And the more we share these stories, the more lives we can save. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Because if God wakes us up in the morning, that means we're still supposed to be here. And if we gotta force it, that means we're supposed to be here. So if we get to a point where we feel like we have to take ourselves out, then that's and I've been there, and you might have been there too. And you know it, it's not a good place to be. So if we can share these stories out and just save a life, please help us do that when you listen to this.
Amen.
And thank you for coming on here. And let's just see where everything goes, man.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening and tuning in. Make sure you guys go subscribe to the YouTube channel, share these stories. This is on all podcasting channels, so make sure you subscribe, follow, get the updates. They're coming out bi-weekly for right now, and then hopefully we'll be able to push the weekly here later on. So thanks for everybody's support, and let's keep it going. God bless.